Hello and welcome coders to the Sky Coding. So in today's session we will discuss about external tables in Snowflake. This is basically a new topic, external tables. We are going to start from today's session, okay? And in this session we will discuss that what are the concepts of the external table, what is external table, why we need external table, and how to create an external table, okay? And we will see that how to create these tables on the external and internal stages, okay? And basically the creating of the external table in the internal stage is not possible, but we will see that why it is not possible and how to create the external tables on the external stages, okay? And talking about the previous session, so in the previous session we have covered about table types in Snowflake, okay? Basically we have three types of tables which are available to us in Snowflake. First one is permanent table, transient table, and the temporary table. And we have done the practical, and we have done the time travel, zero copy cloning, and we have just restored these tables also, permanent table, transient table, and permanent table. And we have discussed about some of the concept also in the previous session, so it's better to watch that video also of the table types before watching this external table, okay? And we have also covered data loading, unloading from external, internal stages, zero copy cloning, time travel. So if you want that videos, then the link will be given in the description box for the full playlist of the Snowflake series. You can watch any of the videos from there, okay? So in today's video we will learn about the external table, okay? And let's talk about the external table, okay? So earlier we are having lots of tables in the Snowflake. First one is permanent table, transient table, and the temporary table. Then why external table came into the picture, okay? So we will discuss about that thing, because we are having three tables already. Then why, what is the need of the external table on the external stages, okay? So we will discuss those things, okay? So without wasting any time, let's get started, and let's learn some of the concepts of the external tables, and we will do the practical of the external table also, that how to create the external table and what are the concept of these things and why we need the external table, okay? So now what is a external table, okay? So let's tell you in the layman's point of view. So external table is a table which you create on the external stage, okay? And creating an external table on the internal stage is not possible, okay? So first of all, let's talk about the external stage and internal stage, as we have already discussed this concept in the previous session where we have done the data loading and unloading. But let's revise that fast, okay? So external stage is a stage, basically we use external stage for the data loading from the external cloud services such as AWS, S3, GCP, or the Microsoft Azure. That's all about the external stage, means a stage which is present on the external cloud storage, okay? And for the internal stages, we create internal stage for data loading into the Snowflake tables from the local machine, means whatever local machine you are using, whether that is a Windows or the Mac OS or the Linux machine, okay? So we use internal stage for data loading from the internal local machine, Windows, or like that, okay? So this is basic difference between internal stage as well as the external stage, okay? So we create a external table on the external stage, but we cannot create the external table on the internal stage, okay? We can create on the external stage only. External stage means on the AWS S3 only, AWS bucket, or any of the cloud services, whether that is AWS, GCP, or the Azure, okay? So this is basically the definition, you can say, of a external table, means the table which is present on the external stage is called a external table, okay? So now we will just read these points and we will just understand these things, okay, in depth, okay? So first point is written: Snowflake external tables allows you to carry the files stored in the external stage like a regular table. That means without moving that data from files to Snowflake tables, okay? Suppose that you have created any stage and you have two files, two or three or multiple files in that stage on the external stage, in suppose that in the AWS S3 bucket only, okay? So, and you have created one external table on that external stage. Then what you have to do, you don't have to just load these data files into the means tables of the Snowflake, and without loading you can just load that data into the external stage only, and you can perform your operations, or you can just select the data from there and you can check the data, means this is basically you want for analytics, or you can say for the testing, okay? So basically the basic method is that the basic process process is that first of all we will just create a stage on the any of the AWS S3 bucket, and after creating a stage we will just load the external external stage data files into the Snowflake tables. This is basically the process we follow for loading the data from the external stage to the internal tables which are available to us in the Snowflake. Okay, the basic this we follow. Okay, but whenever working with the external table, we have to just create the external table on the external stage only, and after that we don't have to just load the stage data into the table, Snowflake table. We can just query the data from the external table only. We don't have to load the data from the external stage to the tables. Okay, so that's a basic difference between external table, why we create an external table and that regular table. Okay, so it is written here, this external table allows you to query the files stored in the external stage, okay, without loading the data to the external stage. Okay, like a regular table. That means without moving data, we don't have to just load the data from the external stage to the tables. We don't have to load that. Okay, we can just directly query the data from the external table which is present on the external stage. Okay, you can see from to the Snowflake tables. Okay, we don't have to load the data. Okay, so that's basically the advantages of the external table. Okay, and this is all about this, and this is and we will just understand this thing better when we will do the practical, and whenever we will create this external table. Okay, then you will better understand these things. Meanwhile, just take these concepts and just read these lines, then you will just means you can just get some concept of the external table, what is this and what is external table and how to create, and what is difference between external table and internal tables, transient, permanent, and all these. Okay, so we will better understand this thing when we will do practical. We will just do practical after this concept. Okay, so external table access the files stored in the external stage. So as I have told you, this external table, suppose that you have any external table on the external stage, so it will just access the data from the external stage only. That's why you don't have to just load the data from the external stage to the external table. And while working with the internal table, such as for the permanent table, we have to just get a permanent table separate and a stage separate, and we have to load the data from the external stage to the permanent table. That's what we used to do in the earlier. Okay, but this is not following in the external table. External table directly access the data from the external stage, such as whether it is from the AWS S3 bucket or GCP bucket or Azure blob storage. Okay, you can use whatever you like of the this cloud services. Okay, and external tables store metadata about these data files, such as a value, complete record, the file name, and file row number. Okay, so these external tables will store the metadata about the data files which are present in your cloud location, such as they can store a complete record of that data file. They can store it will external table will store the file name and a file row number as well. There are basically three columns, metadata columns. We will discuss that in the upcoming slide. Okay, then you will better understand that things. Okay, in the external table we get three extra columns that will store these details: complete record, file name, and file row number, and there is a one variant column as well. Okay, we will discuss that thing in upcoming slide. Okay, and here we in the previous sessions we have done all the loading from the AWS S3 only. If you don't know how to create the AWS S3 account, and if you don't have any of the cloud services account, okay, then the link will be given in the description box. You can watch that video of creating a free trial of the AWS S3 account. Okay, you can watch that and you can create your own AWS S3 cloud storage, okay, bucket. Okay, and this is about the fourth point. External tables are read only. Okay, means suppose that you have created any table on the external stage as a external table. Okay, then you can just perform their read only. Read means you can just perform the select queries, and you can also perform some of the join operations, and you can just analyze the data, but you will not be able to perform any of the DML operations. There means you cannot update, delete, or insert the records there on the external tables. Okay, you cannot perform these DML operations. Okay, basically we create the external tables for just testing or the development purpose, or just analytical of the data analytics. Okay, suppose that there is a analyst team, he wants to just analyze the data. So instead of creating the table on the means databases, he will just create the external table on the external stage, and he will just do the analytics from there. Okay, and this will also not cost more. It will not be just most costly as well. Okay, because you have to, whenever you have to create a permanent table, then there will be a retention period, fail-safe method as well. So Snowflake will cost you more money as well. Okay, so if you are using external table, then there will be less cost as well. Okay, so this is basically this thing. Okay, but it is written here, but we can use external tables for query and join operations. Okay, it is written here, we can just use the external table for selecting the data. Means suppose that you want to get all the data or any by using any filter, or you can perform the join operations for just analytics of the data. Okay, and views and materialized views can be created against external table. And suppose that you have any table, external table, then you can just create a views and materialized views also on the external tables. Okay, and querying data from the external table is likely slower than querying database tables. Okay, suppose that you have any external table and one internal table of the Snowflake, so the data which you will fetch from the external table will be some slower, like when you fetch the data from the Snowflake table, such as permanent table or the transient table. Okay, so this is basically some time of difference whenever we are fetching the data from the external table. Okay, and advantage of external table is you can analyze the data without storing it to the Snowflake. As I have told you this earlier, that suppose that there is one analyst team and he wants to just analyze some data from the files. Okay, which files are stored in the external stage. So what he do, he will just create external table on the external stage, and he can just perform the select queries, or he can perform any of the queries by putting the conditions. Okay, by putting the filter. Okay, and he can analyze that data, and he don't have to just means store the data. He don't have to load the data files into the Snowflake tables. Okay, without storing, he can just analyze the data by using the external tables. Okay, so this is basically the use of the external table for analyzing the data, and we don't have to just store the data into our Snowflake tables as well. Okay, you can just simply create a table on the external stage, and we can just analyze the data or whatever work we want to do. Okay, so this is all about the external stage. Okay, and let's move ahead and let's understand about the metadata about these files. Okay, so this is about metadata of external tables, and external tables stores below metadata information. This metadata information, suppose that you have created any external table, then it will store these three metadata columns: value, a variant column. Okay, and we will discuss about this variant column in the JSON loading, because whenever we will work in the JSON loading, then we don't have to just specify all the columns and all the data types of the columns. Okay, we have to just create one column of the variant column, and it will just store all the data types. Okay, let me tell you about the variant. Variant is a column which just store all the files. Means suppose that whenever you create a table, then you just take that suppose that you give column name. Suppose that there is a common column name for id will be number, and name will be string, and country will be string. Like that you used to give the syntax for creating a table. But whenever working with the JSON, we don't have to give like that way, because in JSON we have double quotes, single quotes, like that data. Okay, so you have to just give the variant column, and variant column will just store all the data types record, whether it is a number, float, string, double quote, single quotes. It will just store all the data types record. Okay, so this is a variant column. Okay, and it will store the variant type column that represents a single row in the external table. Okay, so this is basically the variant. Okay, and external table also store this metadata file name, as we have told you in earlier slide, that it will store the value, file name, and row number. Okay, a pseudo column that identifies the name of each file stage, including in the external stage, including its paths in the stage. Okay, and there will be this column metadata file name, and it will store the name of the file. Means which data. Suppose that you have any customer.csv file. Okay, so it will store the customer.csv file, and it will also means store the path as well of that file. Means on which folder this file is existing. In the Sky bucket, means in any bucket name will be there, folder name, and after that file name will be there. It will store the path as well. Okay, suppose that in your local machine as well, whenever you will open your PC and you will locate, suppose that you have gone to the C drive, after that you have gone to any folder, then there will be a path. Okay, so it will store like that path. Okay, and the last one is metadata file row number, a pseudo column that shows the row number for each record in a stage file. It will just show the row number for each record, whatever the record in the stage data file. It will just show the row number as well. Okay, so this is basically the metadata of the external tables. We will discuss this thing in the practical session, then you will better understand these things. Meanwhile, just take some of the concepts of these things, because concept is very important before doing the practical. Okay, So now let's understand about creating external table. How can we create an external table? Okay, so for creating an external table, you have to just first of all create a file format object, and after that you have to just create a stage, and you have to because we are creating the external table on the external stage, so for external stage you have to just give the URL of the means your bucket here in the, okay, and after that you can create external table. Okay, so you have to just follow these three steps. First of all, you have to create a file format, and after that you have to create a stage object, which is just referring to your cloud storage location, whether it is AWS S3 or Microsoft Azure or GCP. And after that you have to create a external table. After that you can create external table. Okay, and we will discuss the syntax of creating external table. Okay, note, if there are multiple files of the same pattern, we can just create one external table, and it can store the details of all similar files. Okay, suppose that you have any bucket and bucket name bucket, and you have any folder in the external AWS S3 location. Suppose that there is a folder for CSV file, and it is having means CSV file for customer. Let's take an example for the customer. Okay, so it is having a file customer1.csv, customer2.csv, customer3.csv, customer4.csv. It is having 4 files, and customer 1 2 3 4. Okay, and all the 4 files are having similar type of data. Similar type of data. Then you have to just create a one external table, and it will just store all the 4 files into a single table. Okay, so that's all this point is saying. Okay, so this is about how to create an external table. First of all, you have to create a file format. Okay, and stage. Okay, so now let's understand the syntax of the external table. How to create an external table. Okay, so the syntax will be create external table. After that you have to give the table name of that, whatever table name you want to give for your external table. After that you have to give the columns here. Okay, and for the columns we have to give the column name, after that value, and after that suppose that this is a column 1, so you have to just cast this as a column 1, and after that you have to give the data type as well. Okay, and with location, and here you have to just specify the location of your stage, and after that you have to specify the file format property as well. Okay, so this is basically the syntax for creating an external table. Okay, and here columns, we will just understand this thing better when we will create a external table in the practical session. Okay, here you can see, as I am telling about this thing. Okay, create or replace external table, and this is table name, and suppose that here is column id. Id is an integer. This is id int is in where it is in the data means .csv file. So let's take an example of .csv only. As after that you have to give the value, as this is a value, this value will go to the column 1, and column 1 will be just integer type. So we have to just cast this column 1 into the integer type, as we are doing the casting here by using double columns. Okay, and after that name will be worker 20, and we are just specifying this value as a column 2, and we are just casting it as to the worker, and here it is a department as value. After that we are just casting it to the integer, because department is an integer. Okay, and we are just giving that this is a column 3, column 1, column 2, column 3. Okay, so you have to give like that way. Okay, with location I am just creating this table from this my S3 stage. Okay, this is basically the stage location. Okay, where the stage name. Okay, and this is basically the file format which earlier he has created. Okay, so this is basically the syntax for creating the external table. Okay, and we will understand this thing better when we will do the practical. Okay, so it's better to watch that video also of the practical session. Okay, first of all we are understanding the concepts of the external table. Okay, so let's move ahead, and we will create these tables when we will do the practical. Okay, and refreshing external tables. Okay, so all the external tables whatever you will create on the external stage, those all the tables will automatically be refreshed. Why? Let me tell you that thing. Okay, let me read this thing. So external tables will be refreshed automatically. It is written here. Okay, the refresh operation synchronizes the metadata with the latest set of associated files in the external stage and the path. That is, what is the meaning of this? Okay, why these tables are refreshing automatically? Okay, so let me tell you. Okay, so suppose that you have any type of file earlier, and you have just added one more file, 1 2 3 4 file into your external cloud storage, then how that file will come to the table? Okay, so that's why these things are just refreshing automatically. Okay, So suppose that new files in the path are added to the table metadata. Suppose that you have earlier one file in your external stage, and after that you have just uploaded there 2 3 files, so that how they will just go into the table. So that's why new files will also be added to the table whenever you will upload them. Okay, and after that it will just refresh and it will it will show you that metadata as well into the external table. Okay, and changes to the file in the path are updated in the table metadata, and files no longer in the path are removed from the table metadata. Suppose that you have one file into your stage location and you have created an external table, and after that you have just removed that table. So whenever you will remove that table, then that table will also be, that table data will also be removed from the table metadata as well. Okay, suppose that you have created any table from the external stage location file, and after that you have removed that file, then with that removing file, the table metadata of that file will also be removed. With the file which is no longer in the path are removed from the table metadata. Okay, and this is changes to the file in the path are updated in the table metadata. Suppose that you have customer.csv file and you have created one customer external table, and after that creating this you are just updating some of the records in the customer.csv file, then that updation will also be updated in the table metadata of the external table. Okay, so what are the three things here? Suppose that whenever you will upload new file, then that also will be uploaded, means updated in the table metadata of external table, and whenever you will do any of the changes in the path, then also will be uploaded in the metadata. And suppose that whatever file you will remove, that also be done in the table metadata. Okay, changes to the file in the path will also be updated in the table metadata. Okay, so that's all about the refreshing of the external table, and we are just telling you this thing again and again. We will just discuss these things in practical. Okay, then you will better understand about these things. Okay, so thank you guys for watching this session, and that's all about the external tables on the external stages. And we will do the practical of these sessions, then you will better understand about the external tables. Okay, and in the next session we will discuss about how to create external tables and how to load the data from these things. Okay, and we will discuss some of the differences also from the external tables in with the permanent table, transient table, and the temporary table. Okay, so that's all for today. The link will be given in the description box only for the part 2 video of the external tables, and we will do the practical there. The practical video link will be given in the description box. You can watch that video. Okay, because watching the practical is very important, because without practical how can you understand these things better. Okay, so that's all for today. Meet you soon in the next very interesting tutorial of the practical session of the external table.